Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. My talk today was about living as the true self, living as we truly are. Many people believe that Zen practice is a technique to benefit themselves. This is how most people start out their practice, thinking that this is a technique that I will use to gain particular states of mind and consciousness and to improve myself in various ways. So although this seems to be true from a conventional point of view, ultimately Zen practice is to live as we truly are. This is to live as the true self that is directly experienced here and now. What we truly are, the true self, is directly known here and now. It's not objectively known or conceptually known, but it's directly experienced here and now. Everybody is experiencing this directly known true self. This true self, what we truly are, is the directly experienced reality of here and now. Whatever we say about the true self doesn't completely say it. Dualistic language concepts are inadequate for describing it. Still, we have to say something to help people realize what the true self is, even though whatever is said doesn't completely say it. Sometimes different terms are used to point to what the true self is. Some of these terms are wholeness, totality, universal reality, the life of all beings. There's nothing outside of the true self. There's nothing in dualistic relationship to it. Sometimes the true self is called our true life, our true nature. This true nature is the Buddha nature, a technical term for it, meaning awakeness itself, awareness itself. This is our true nature, is awareness or awakeness. Sometimes the term the one mind is used. Sometimes the term reality, truth, or Dharma. We can't really define what this reality is, or what truth is, or what Dharma is. But yet, we're living this reality, this truth, this Dharma, moment after moment, here and now. These, what is said, these terms are offered to help us in our investigation of direct here and now experience. And some of the things that are said in Zen Buddhist teaching are to help us loosen our grip on the strong attachment we have to our ideas about how things are. So Zen teaching is not meant to give you ideas to grasp and believe. Zen teaching is to help you loosen your grip and let go of the ideas that you are strongly attached to. So having said that, I'll mention a few things about the true self. The true self, what we truly are, is not in dualistic relationship to anything else. It cannot be objectified or explained or conceptually pinned down or conceptually grasped. Also, it cannot be hidden. It is being directly experienced now, and everything is a manifestation of it. It cannot be hidden. Everything that you experience is a manifestation of the true self. The Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki, who wrote Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, probably many of you are familiar with him through his books. Suzuki Roshi, Shunryu Suzuki, used to say, when you see something or hear a sound, there you have everything just as it is. Everything is a manifestation of this true self, which is a reality of boundless totality, wholeness, and universality. But it doesn't mean we should grasp ideas of boundlessness or wholeness or totality or universality. These terms are pointers, but we're not trying to cling to any particular idea about what the true self is. Our purpose and our practice is to try to directly realize it and live our life out of this direct realization rather than living our life based on our preconceived ideas about what our life is and what our practice is and what the nature of reality is. Already we're living as the true self, but this true self is usually overlooked. The true self, or directly experienced here now reality, is being overlooked when we believe that it corresponds to the limited views and one-sided ideas that we have about it, and we live our lives based on this belief. Frequently, I use the expression, the true self, or directly experienced here now reality, is not as it seems, nor is it otherwise. The reality we're living seems to be a dualistically structured, divided up reality. It seems to consist of separate things which persist through time, move through space, and interact with other separately existing things that cause other separate things to appear and other separate events to take place. This is how reality seems to be. But in carefully investigating direct here now experience, we can't actually find separately existing, persisting beings or things or phenomena. This is a reality where ultimately separate existing, persisting things cannot be found. Nevertheless, this reality, and where separately existing, persisting things cannot be found, functions and manifests itself in such a way as there appear to be separately existing, persisting things that move through space and interact with other separately existing things. We don't ignore either aspect of our life. Our life shows up in this way. These are not two different realities. They're different ways of looking at this reality, which is our true self. So we don't attach to ideas of any ideas that we have about this reality. We don't attach to the appearances or the ideas about separation and multiplicity and duality. We don't attach to ideas of oneness either. We just try to live out this reality without attaching to our ideas and living our life based on being awake to this reality, which is being directly experienced without holding to our ideas and beliefs about what it is. Whatever idea or belief we have about the true self is incomplete or limited. The true self cannot be packaged within a conceptual description. The true self is boundless, all-inclusive, beginningless, and endless. But even the idea is boundless, all-inclusive, and beginningless and endless do not fully describe it. It cannot be explained or described no matter what we say about it. But we have to say something to point to what the true self is and what this way of life is. We have to say something when we're talking about how the conventional appearance is, and we have to say something about beyond conventional appearances. But whatever is said, whatever ideas are used, whatever concepts are used, don't attach to them. Just see them as pointers. Don't grasp the ideas and believe that reality exactly corresponds to them. This is very important. We have a very strong tendency to get caught up in our ideas and believe that reality exactly corresponds to the ideas we have about it. And then we overlook the actual direct experience. This is how we fall into confusion about what our life is. One belief that most of us are caught up in is the belief that the true self, or here now reality, is divided up in many ways. Most people believe this. We don't even question this. We believe that there is separation of self and others, here and there, now and then, and many other separations as well. We very much believe that reality is dualistically structured. Most people don't even question that. That's just how it appears. They believe this is how it is. They don't question it. The true self, or reality, ultimately is an undivided reality. Nevertheless, it functions and manifests itself in such a way that it appears to be divided up. There seem to be separate individuals and things, separate times, places, events, and situations. We very much believe that reality corresponds to this divided up appearance. We deeply believe that we're separate individuals living in a world of other separate individuals and things, and we live our life based on this belief. The true self, what we truly are, is being overlooked when we one-sidedly hold to the belief in separation. But this doesn't mean we should go to the other extreme and grasp the idea of oneness either. As I mentioned, this reality is a reality where all beings are living one inseparable life, but this one inseparable life is showing up as looks like separation of all these separate things. We don't hold to any idea that we have about what this reality is. When we see ourselves caught up in our ideas and living our life based on the ideas, believing that reality corresponds to these ideas, just see that and allow that to drop away. So we're not holding to it, ideas of separation or multiplicity. We're not holding to ideas of oneness or no separation. Just be aware here and now, without holding to ideas. With careful investigation of here and now reality, it eventually becomes evident that separate, substantial things are not found. It can be realized that each seemingly separate thing is a manifestation of the true self, in which ultimately no separation is evident. All the seemingly separate things that appear are empty of separate persisting selfhood or substantiality. However, we don't ignore them or dismiss them. We don't throw out our conventional ideas about ourselves, others, and the nature of reality. These ideas help us to function in conventional reality, where things seem to be in dualistic relationship to each other, Um, it's the problem is we usually, although these ideas are very helpful and functional and living our life as it seems to be, conventional, seemingly dualistic reality, usually we get caught by the ideas and believe that's the complete uh, understanding of how reality is, the complete explanation of how reality is. So although these ideas are helpful and functional in everyday life, we try not to be caught by these ideas. And we are caught by these ideas when we believe that they exactly match how reality is. So, as I've been saying throughout my talk today, don't attach to any idea or belief as much as possible. When you see yourself caught up in an attachment to your ideas and beliefs, just let that go. Don't attach to any idea, not even the idea of oneness. This practice is to live this reality, which is our true self, which is a reality in which all beings are living one inseparable life. But we try to do that without attaching to the idea of oneness. This is very subtle. We need to see how strongly attached we are to our ideas about how reality is. When we see it isn't a reality of separation, we go for the idea of, well, it's a reality of oneness. But either way, we're still attaching to an idea of oneness or an idea of separation. We're still overlooking the actual direct experience. So in our practice, we try to take care of all the seemingly separate things without being taken in by the belief that they actually are separate. Each seemingly separate thing we encounter is our own life in the sense that it is inseparable from us. So we try to take care of it with kindness and compassion. But once again, don't attach to some idea of oneness or no separation. This is a reality where all beings are living one inseparable life. Don't attach to that idea, but just live this reality where all beings are living one inseparable life wholeheartedly. It's when we attach to the idea of oneness and believe that's it, I can ignore this seeming duality and multiplicity, we're making a mistake. When we get caught by an idea of separation and multiplicity, we're ignoring that we're living this reality inseparably from all beings. As much as possible, when you find yourself attaching to one-sided ideas and beliefs about what our life is, let that go and resume the practice of being aware here and now without being caught up in ideas and beliefs. The practice of living as the true self is to be aware here and now. This is to be aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now. As I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, usually people think that this practice is carried out to benefit me, to benefit the separate ego self that I imagine myself to be, and to gain states of mind and that I'm lacking, and to get rid of states of mind that I have and don't want. We think it's a way to benefit ourselves, but this practice is to be carried out just to be aware for the sake of being aware, not being caught up in ideas of benefit. In this practice, we try to let go of our preconceived ideas about who we are and what our life is, And we try to let go of our expectations. And when we do that, we try to resume the practice of just being aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now. And in this practice, it can be seen how we are entangled in our one-sided, dualistic, limited views, beliefs, and ideas. When it becomes evident that we're caught up in our ideas and beliefs and living our life based on them, just be aware. Just resume the practice of being aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now. Don't try to get rid of the beliefs or views. Just be aware. Resume the practice of being aware here and now. In the practice of awareness, these beliefs and the ways of life based on them can eventually be seen through and let go of. And they drop away by themselves. You don't have to try and forcefully get rid of the ideas we're attached to. Just be aware, and for the sake of being aware. And in this practice of awareness, the ideas will drop away by themselves. It will become clear in this practice of awareness that reality couldn't correspond to the one-sided, limited views that we have about it. When we practice it in this way, we can live lives of clarity rather than lives based on limited views and one-sided beliefs. The Zen Teacher Dogen is a important, probably most of you have heard of him. He's a very important teacher in our tradition. He's a 13th century Japanese Zen teacher who transmitted our way of life to from China to Japan. The teacher Dogen used to say, the reason you don't wake up is that you don't relinquish your views. We live our life based on our ideas and beliefs and other one-sided views. And so we don't realize what our actual life is. We don't realize the actual directly experienced life that's being directly experienced here now. In this practice of awareness, it can eventually be seen that awareness or awakeness, beyond our conventional ideas of awareness or awakeness, is what we are. This can be directly realized. When a person is first starting out in this practice, he or she usually thinks that he's a separate individual doing something in particular called, in quotes, being aware. But eventually it can be realized that the true self, what we truly are, is awareness or awakeness itself. A technical term for this is Buddha nature, awareness or awakeness itself. This is our true nature, our true life, our true self. So what we are is awareness itself, beyond the idea of personal awareness. Our practice is to fully live or be this awareness by seeing and letting go of the ways that this awareness is overlooked. And this way there can be release from being caught up in limited ideas and beliefs. So the way we overlook our true life, which is directly experienced now, as I've been saying over and over again in my talk, is by getting caught up in our ideas about what our life is, about who we are, who others are, what the nature of reality is, what awareness is, what awakeness is, what Buddha nature is. We have all these ideas and we hold on to them and try and figure things out based on our attachment to the ideas that we have about what our life is. Katagiri Roshi used to say, we're always playing juggling. We have all these ideas and we juggle these ideas trying to figure out what our life is and what our practice is. We're always playing juggling, but we're juggling our ideas. We're caught up in our ideas and trying to figure things out based on our ideas. And we're overlooking the actual direct experience, overlooking who we truly are. Our teacher, Katagiri Roshi, used to say, you are Buddha. All beings are Buddha. By Buddha, Katagiri Roshi means awareness or awakeness. Everything is a manifestation of awareness or awakeness or Buddha nature. This is the true self of each being. Since we are Buddha or awakeness, our practice is to fully live as this awakeness. We're letting go of how this awakeness is overlooked. Once again, it's by getting caught up in our limited views and ideas about what our life is. So this practice is not about trying to get something for the separate individuals that we believe we are. This practice is ultimately to live as the awareness or Buddha nature that we actually are. This was a very strongly emphasized teaching by Katagiri Roshi. You'd say, you are Buddha, all beings are Buddha. We're a Buddha in the sense that our true nature is the Buddha nature. All beings, all phenomena are manifestations of Buddha nature. Our practice is to live this Buddha nature, to be this Buddha nature, to be this awakeness or awareness that we truly are. But in doing this, when Katagiri Roshi says, you are Buddha, all beings are Buddha, he's not trying to give us another idea to grasp and believe in. This statement by Katagiri Roshi is a pointer to what is being directly experienced now. He's not trying to give us an idea to grasp and believe in. He's trying to point to actual direct experience and to encourage us to really live as we are, to really live as the great Buddhas that we are. Katagiri Roshi used to say, you are great beyond comparison. You know, this reality that we're living is beyond comparison. In this sense, we're great beyond comparison. This isn't a statement to get puffed up and egotistically, inspired by. It's just to realize what we are, and to not sell ourselves short. Doesn't mean we have to stick our thumbs in our lapels and say, I am Buddha, with a sense of pride. Just is to realize who you truly are and to live based on that without any additional sense of pride. Just live as you are without a sense of pride. And respect others as great Buddhas too. In this way of life, it can be seen that we exist inseparably from all beings. Our life is the life of all beings. We try to fully participate in the life of all beings by seeing and letting go of the ways that the life of all beings is overlooked, once again, by getting caught up in our ideas about who we are, who others are, what all beings are, what reality is. We have all these ideas we're trying to figure things out and get the right idea about. But we need to let go of that. And it is by seeing and letting go of our ideas about what our life is, that we can fully participate in this life of all beings by seeing and letting go of the ways of life that or by seeing and letting go of how we overlook our life. In this way, we can benefit all beings and allow all beings to benefit us. As the Zen teacher Dogen Senji said, this practice is an all-inclusive practice, mutually benefiting self and others. These beings, though they seem to be separate beings, are not actually separate beings. If they actually were separate beings, this life of mutual assistance and mutual benefit would not be possible. So it's not to get caught up in the idea of I'm one with all beings either. It's just to live this reality wholeheartedly without being caught up in our one-sided ideas about what it is. Briefly stated, Zen practice is not a technique to get something for the separate ego selves that we think we are. This practice is to live as we truly are and to benefit all beings. In this practice, when we help all beings, this helps all beings to help us. And it helps us to help all beings and helps all beings to help us. This practice endlessly resonates and enables us to live wonderful, helpful lives as the great Buddhas that we are. But don't grasp any ideas of this. Whatever ideas I offered are just pointers. They don't really describe what our life is or what this practice is. So don't grasp any ideas of it. Just see all of this as pointers. And don't try to figure this out. Just try to carry out this practice of, as much as possible, being aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now in our everyday activities and carrying out our duties in everyday life, trying to carry out that practice. And when we sit zazen, try and carry out that practice. As much as possible, be aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now, and trying to find in each moment the best way to take care of the situation that we're in moment by moment. Try to take care of how things are manifesting now without being caught up in our ideas about what our situation is. So I wanted to tell a story that might be illustrative of what I've been talking about. This is about a person named Kyogen. He eventually went on to become a great Zen teacher. His teacher was the teacher Isan, another great Zen teacher. And when Kyogen was a monk at Isan's monastery, Kyogen tried very hard to conceptually understand what his teacher was talking about. And he also read extensively in the Buddhist scriptures, trying to conceptually grasp what this reality of life was and what this way of life was. He was very much wanted to get an intellectual understanding of what his life was, what his true self was. One day his teacher said to him, his teacher Isan said to Kyogen, can you tell me what your true self is before your parents were born. So Kyogen tried to answer that question. He looked in all his notes that he'd taken of his teacher's lectures, and he looked at all the Buddhist books he'd been studying, trying to find a way to answer that question that his teacher Isan had asked him. But whatever answer Kyogen gave to this question, what is your true self before your parents were born? Whatever answer he gave, his teacher Isan rejected. Kyogen kept trying to present an answer, but whatever answer Kyogen presented, his teacher would reject it. So finally Kyogen said, well, why don't you just tell me? I've presented all these answers and you have rejected all of them. Why don't you just tell me? But his teacher said, if I told you, it would have nothing to do with you. It would just be my statement. It wouldn't help you realize what your true self is. So his teacher refused to tell Kyogen what his true self was. Kyogen at that point decided that he was going to stop studying studying the scriptures, and he was going to stop taking notes on his teacher's lectures. He decided that he was going to leave the monastery. He wasn't going to discontinue this practice of awareness. He was going to try and continue with that as much as he understood it. But he decided he wasn't going to live at the monastery anymore. He decided that he would become a wandering monk who would go from one temple or monastery to another and work as a serving monk, helping to serve the monks who lived at that monastery. So Kyogen did that for a couple of years. But eventually Kyogen settled down and worked as the caretaker at the gravesite of a famous Zen master who lived about 150 years before. And so Kyogen's job was to clean up around the graveyard, to weed and sweep the paths at the graveyard and keep it looking nice. As people would visit this gravesite and to honor this teacher who had lived about 150 years before. So one day as Kyogen was sweeping the path, he swept a pebble into a bamboo tree. His broom swept the pebble into the bamboo tree, and at the sound of the pebble hitting the bamboo tree, Kyogen suddenly realized what his true self was. Just the sound of the pebble hitting the bamboo, he suddenly realized what the bamboo moved. Well, he suddenly realized what his true self was. At this time, Kyogen had a deep sense of gratitude, and he bowed in the direction of his teacher's monastery. It was far away, but he bowed in that direction in gratitude to his teacher. And Kyogen said, if you had told me back then when I asked you, I never could have had this great joy that I have today. So Kyogen realized that if his teacher had given him some conceptual understanding of what his true self was, that Kyogen might have attached to that conceptual understanding and not been able to directly experience what his true self was. Because of being attached to some particular understanding that he received, he would not have been able to truly, directly realize what his true self was. So after Kyogen had this experience, and after he had bowed towards his teacher's monastery, Kyogen said, "One hit and all my preconceived ideas and beliefs were seen through." The reason Kyogen didn't realize his true self, he was caught up in all sorts of ideas and beliefs about what his life was, what his true self was. But one hit, and he could realize it, and directly realizing what his true self was, he realized that reality couldn't be that way. He couldn't be the way that it couldn't correspond to the preconceived ideas that he had about it. And he had directly realized that. He went on, this is a little poem that he wrote, and I'll continue on with the poem. This poem, has many versions of it. I kind of picked several examples of this poem. There are many versions of it, but the next line in the version I selected was, "I no longer live my life based on egocentric confusion." Kyogen is no longer caught by the belief, or the one-sided belief that he's some separately existing, persistent ego self. He doesn't live his life caught up in that belief, that egocentric belief. And so he's able to let go of his egocentricity and really live as he is. He doesn't get caught up in some idea of oneness either. He just lives his life based on direct here now experience without being caught up in any beliefs or ideas at all. Next line of the poem says, "In each moment I practice the Buddha way, the way of awakeness." In each moment, Kyogen practices the way of awakeness. He makes the effort to be awake, to be aware here and now, for the sake of being aware here and now. So this is Kyogen's practice. He, when he finds himself caught up in his ideas, caught up in his beliefs, he just resumes his practice of being aware here and now, for the sake of being aware here and now. Even after having an awakening experience, people can still get caught up in their old habitual interpretations of things and their old ideas and beliefs. When that happens, just see that. Don't continue on and continue to hold on to that. Just see that and allow that to drop away and resume the practice of being aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now, and try and carry out that practice in all circumstances as much as possible. The next line of the poem is, "I no longer strive for particular states of mind." Before, Kyogen was trying to get particular states of mind, seeking for, I want to get enlightenment, I want peace, freedom. He's trying to get something. He's dissatisfied with what his state of mind is now, and he wants to get something better in the future. But now he doesn't seek after anything. He's not seeking after things. He's not seeking after truth. He's just ceasing to cherish his opinions and one-sided ideas. He's not seeking out enlightenment or awakeness or Buddha nature. He's just living the enlightenment that is right now. He's not trying to seek peace or freedom. He's living out the peace and freedom that is right now. The next line says, "I no longer live a life of attachment." Dogen has seen that a life of attachment is really not possible. It's not possible to attach. Dogen clearly sees it. He's not some particular individual who can attach, and that there are no separate particular things that he could attach to. He doesn't even attach to the idea of emptiness or freedom or oneness, or there's nothing to attach to. It's just, he just lives his life without clinging to the belief that he can attach to something else. He says, I am not restricted by rules of conduct. He isn't caught up in the belief that he has to obey certain rules. Like some people feel that the precepts are rules that they have to obey. But the precepts are not actually commandments or rules that we have to obey. The precepts are pointing to what this true self, this true life is, and to help us to see when we're ignoring it, and help us to see that when we're ignoring it, we're likely to get caught up in egocentricity and doing destructive things. The precepts help us to see that. So we're not restricted by rules and, I have to obey these rules. He's living a life of freedom, but these precepts give us a suggestion as to when, or help us to see when we're caught up in our limited views and overlooking who we truly are, and going off into a life of egocentricity and destructive activity. The final line of this poem is, those who have realized this call it the unsurpassable way of life. This ultimately is an unsurpassable way of life. This is a way of living out reality, which is great beyond comparison. It's to respect all beings as great beyond comparison. Respecting each moment as great beyond comparison. This is a wonderful way of life, to live as the great Buddha that we are, to live as the life of all beings that we are. This is an unsurpassable way of life. There's not something in dualistic relationship to it, or beyond it, or outside of it. This is to live out this totality, this life of wholeness, this life of all beings, without being stuck in our limited views, and without being caught by a sense of egocentricity, thinking I'm living that unsurpassable life, or my life is great beyond comparison, with thumbs stuck in our suspenders with pride. So anyway, well, I hope this made some sort of sense, but don't grasp anything I said, please. Just see this as pointers. Just see, the main thing is to be aware here and now, for the sake of being aware here and now, to live our life based on that practice. This is to live as we truly are, and to take care of our life situation as best we can. So do you have any questions or comments, or anything that you'd like to say? There's not much time left, I guess, but.
Yeah, no, just a comment, Norm. Thank you for this talk.
Thanks.
I know that you've given this talk before, but for some reason it really sunk in this time. I think before maybe it went in one ear and out the other, but now it really makes sense. With sense in the sense that I see what you're talking about, not that I have an idea. So
good. Thank you, Mike. We're glad to hear that. I'm glad I gave this talk then. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Hi, Norm. Good morning.
All right, Ken.
Hi. Thank you for the talk. Great. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to structure this question particularly well. So forgive me. But I was particularly interested in what you were saying about duality, and it occurred to me, isn't the coexistence of reality with a small r and reality with a big R in itself dualistic?
Yeah, yeah. If we attach to that idea, it's ultimately all one reality, but it can be looked at in different ways. It can be looked at in the conventional small r reality, or the ultimate, or big R reality. It can be looked at in either way, but it's not to attach to any particular idea about it. Just to live that reality without being caught up in ideas of conventional reality or ultimate or absolute reality. Just to live that reality without being caught up in ideas about it. That's not dualistic. Just because we get caught up in ideas, then it becomes dualistic.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. Thanks for coming today, everybody. Okay, thank you very much.